What's that?
Good evening, everyone. With the time being 6 p.m. on Tuesday, February 28th, 2023, I will call this meeting of the Webster School Committee to order. And as a reminder, in conjunction with some of the modifications to the open meeting law that Governor Baker has put forth, we are conducting this meeting via Zoom, and that's because of the inclement weather that we're experiencing today. The first item on the agenda is the approval of the minutes from the February 4th, 2023 meeting.
So moved.
Second.
There's a motion and a second to approve those meeting minutes. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, Lori, would you please poll the committee?
Member Millet,
Yes.
Member Naprata,
Yes.
Member Blythe,
Yes.
Member Adamopoulos,
Yes.
Chair Siddiqui.
Yes, motion passes. The next item on the agenda is an update from our student representative. Do we have Victoria joining us this evening?
I haven't heard otherwise.
I don't see her yet. I'm going to actually go ahead and table that item. And maybe if Vicky's able to join us, we can go back to it, unless anyone has an update from Vicky otherwise. No, okay, change of venue. So we may have to wait for our updates for another couple of weeks. And if that's the case, that's okay too. The next item on the agenda is the superintendent's report. Good evening, Mrs. Perangeli.
Good evening. Thank you. I have a very small report tonight. At our last meeting, Dr. Gogan had welcomed a few new employees, and I just want to re-welcome them because this was their first week. So they came in, they had two of them had a day and then a snow day. Cassandra Sawyer and Sarah St. Germain are ABAs at Park Ave. So I just wanted to welcome them. And then later this week, I believe it's on Thursday, we have Scott DaCosta, who is a new BCBA, joining us in the district. Also, we received a resignation from Jenna Goen. She was our adult education director. We have had somebody in there as filling in her spot, Ava Landry, and she is continuing to do that. We did post the position, so we will be looking at filling that position shortly. Are there any personnel update questions? No? Okay. Moving on, under other updates, the Southern Worcester County Educational Collaborative had a meeting on February 17th. In your packet, you should have the second quarter report for your review. I have had an opportunity to scan through it and didn't see anything that looked out of the normal. So I think everything is running smoothly there, and I would be attending their next meeting. So any questions about that?
Any questions
And
from the
that-
committee? No?
Nope.
Sorry
That's
about that.
it for the superintendent's report, no problem. I just kind of moved quickly on that. So I can continue right into the business manager report if you'd like.
Sure. Yeah, that sounds great.
Okay, as far as building committee update, we still have a few things we're working on. The committee, the OPMs are still working on the contract with the modular company. They have been going back and forth and just ironing out some details on that, being very thorough. So I appreciate their work on that. We hope to have a final document shortly. As far as our MEP, our engineering, they were in the district a couple of days going through our high school, meeting with our head custodian, Al Young, and looking at all the mechanicals and asking questions and looking for asbestos and doing some real thorough work within the building. So it's exciting to start to see a lot of the work starting to take place. It's making the project seem real at this point, when you have to start making certain decisions. We also met with a hardware consultant, so talking about the flow of the building. How do you want the doors to lock? How do you want the entrances, the in and outs of the building? What's going to be a card reader? What's going to be a key? So just kind of going through those updates. We had that meeting over break last week. So the work is continuing. It's exciting work, and I can't wait as we continue to move forward and really start getting in the day-to-day and living the construction. That's when the exciting stuff starts to happen. So we're looking forward to that. And that's it for school building. We don't have a meeting until March 21st, so there's not much else to report on then. It will be, I think it's the 21st of March. It's the third Tuesday in March. And then moving on to maintenance items, things are going well in the building. We haven't had any issues really since last time. We have made some updates, actually. We finally repaired the ceiling in the Park Ave Elementary. I found a contractor to come in and he replaced all the tiles in the elementary that where we had that leak from the HVAC unit. So that's happy to have that done. We updated the flushometers in the bathrooms where we were experiencing the clogs. So hopefully more water pressure we have going through those systems will help alleviate any more issues until we can repair the outside of the building over the summer at the middle school. And other than that, we have not had any issues with buildings. We are just working through the normal maintenance stuff up, fire inspections, fire extinguisher inspections, hood inspections, doing all the normal maintenance that we typically do in a given year. So I'm happy to report on that there are no major issues to report. Any questions on maintenance? No? Okay. And then in other updates, I have some real positive news to share with you. Our Chapter 70 numbers had come out this past week, or a week and a half ago, I want to say. And our numbers came in more than what we anticipated. So we've seen an increase of 2.3 million over our last year Chapter 70 numbers, which is good news for the district. I've been working with the town accountant and the town administrator in regards to our budget, and it looks like that we are in really good shape. And as you know, we submitted a budget downtown. If I can find it, on February, in the middle of February, looking for $25,313,083. It appears now that we are all in agreement that we will be getting an additional 616,000 on top of that for a final number of $25,929,422. So that's really good news for the district and for the town. It's a win-win for both of us. So we're seeing some benefits from the adjustment of the Chapter 70 formula, and it's really making an impact on our community. So, my suggestion is now that we go back to the leadership team and we take a look at that additional money and prioritize. My recommendations will be to take some of those positions that we had in ESSER that we really think that we want to put back in our local budget for sustainability for long-term instructional practices. So we will be meeting. I will schedule a couple meetings and we will review those numbers, prioritize, and then we will come back to school committee with an updated budget for your review and answer any questions you might have. And then we eventually will again be looking for another approved budget to send back downtown with the new numbers. I think we both feel really good about it. We don't anticipate any more adjustments. I asked the town accountant, we were on the phone earlier, if he thought there was anything out there that we're missing or that would have a negative impact to make us go back. And right now he feels really comfortable with all the numbers. The only major things that we could see would be maybe any major increases in health insurance that would come to our attention down the road, or any adjustments in Chapter 70 at the state level that might impact. But I think we both feel pretty good about this number at this point. So that's some real positive news. Are there any questions in regards to that?
It's great news. Just a comment.
Do you have any
Any other-
feedback that you want me to take back to the team as we start looking at our budgets again and looking at prioritizing the district's needs?
I'll open it up for the committee. I have some thoughts, but I'd like to hear from everyone else first. If anybody has any other Kathy, I see you're off mute.
Yeah, through the chair. I think I just would want to, it is great news. And I appreciate that you want to look at the positions that are funded through the ESSER funds to potentially make more permanent. So I would just want to review what those ESSER funded positions are, just to have a sense of what we should be moving forward to more permanent with this funding.
What I would like to do with the team is, take those positions that we had in ESSER and as a group, prioritize those numbers and then come back to the committee with recommendations and our thoughts on what the impact of those positions will be for the district. And then, we can discuss any further feedback or recommendations and adjustments that we would need to make at that point. Thank you.
And Mrs. Pransley, just from my perspective, my concern, I guess, has been ensuring that we have class sizes that are small enough to give individualized attention to, especially at the younger grades, and ensuring that we have enough grown-ups in the building to differentiate instruction and give good tier 1, tier 2 instruction to kids so that we can catch them before they get far behind. And, just referencing back to some of the I-ready data that we saw, we can see that things are slipping as the years go by for kids that start off a little bit behind. So a priority for me would be, and obviously I defer to the team, but really ensuring that we have enough adults and enough differentiation happening in small group instruction.
It certainly has been a topic for discussion in a lot of our meetings. Really, the difficulty we're having at Park Ave, and we'll go back and take another look at this as a team, is just space. We are running out of space at Park Ave to put people to service the kids. I think the team, all of us agree that, adding more bodies is not going to really fix the issue that we have. It's just making sure that we're servicing the kids and we're really focusing on our tier 1 instruction to have quality tier 1 instruction that we're continuing forward. But we always will bring it back to the team. We'll take a look at that and certainly take those comments under advisement. But we definitely have a space issue at Park Ave in trying to locate areas where we can give the best service possible in the best environment possible. So we are looking at addressing that need so that way we can move on and address the class sizes and other issues that we're having.
Yeah, that makes sense. One other thought, if you don't mind, has to do with, our increasing population of ESL kids and ensuring that this is actually unrelated to bodies, but ensuring that we have a way to wrap our arms around those kids when they join us, and also wrap our arms around those families that may not fully understand either the educational system if they're new to the country, or if they're not new to the country, even just understanding the communication that's happening and having a real great opportunity to know what their kids are learning, how they can become involved, and giving teachers tools to really connect in a meaningful way with the kids that are not speaking the same language or not maybe understanding everything that's happening in the classroom. And same goes for the parents. So that would just be another thought. Wish list items that we never put into the budget.
Okay. Any other suggestions? All right, thank you. Well, we have
Thank you for opening that up.
Yeah, absolutely. We have a to-do list and we will go back and take a look and then bring back our recommendations.
Perfect.
And that concludes my report.
All right. Well, thank you, Mrs. Pransley.
Thank you.
There are no other questions or comments from the committee. We'll move on to our next item, which is the principal report. And joining us this evening from Bartlett High School is Mr. Ryan Collins. Good evening, Mr. Collins.
Good evening. Good evening, everyone. I want to start off, and it's going to be much of a continuation as that last wish on that list that Chair Siddiqui just talked about. In our coming season of registration and scheduling, that has been a big lever for us to meet the needs of our students, all of our students, and truly giving an equitable platform to quality courses and curriculums. So we have, minus today's wonderful snow day, begun our big season of registration. And I want to talk a little bit about the 23-24 registration. It is a registration process where every student is going to be given a one-on-one session with a counselor. And we did start with our rising seniors, the class of 2024. And we have started with them this week. And it has been a great first day in doing it. We'll resume our work tomorrow. But I want to tell you about the one-on-one session and why that's so important. I think as we look at the needs of kids, it's really nice for them to be able to sit down in front of their counselor of record, to be able to go over every course offering, but not only that, to go over the mass core and to revisit the credits needed for graduation, and to look at historical data in terms of what their grades have been, and then of course, what their test data has looked like. And in that time frame, in that one-on-one session, they're going over our new cards, our new registration cards, which do mirror our work with our Power School consultant and our program of studies, which you so kindly approved and went through with us last meeting. And it allows the students to then go home to mom, to dad, to guardian, and to go over their selections, bring it back to the counselor, and we are going to then begin our scheduling process. Our scheduling process will be very strategic based upon the 2023-24 registration season of what students really want. We will, as I said, before I jump into second part there, I kind of naturally segued myself there, but let me back up. The registration process and the one-on-one is beginning, like I said, with our rising seniors, and then we'll complete our registration season in the middle school at Webster Middle and do our rising ninth grade, where we will not only introduce those students to the courses offered for ninth grade students, and then show them the exploration of what our PLTW pathways will look like for the next 4 years as we begin those clusters, those pathways, but also to go over their initial idea of like what a credit looks like, understanding that process, and so on and so forth. Once we have all of those numbers, I will segue into the second thing here on the agenda. The numbers will dictate and guide what strategic scheduling really looks like. To go back to one of the concerns that Chair Siddiqui, you brought up about our L students. In strategically scheduling at Bartlett High School, there is a strong need to address our special education and our multilingual populations. And first and foremost, that's where we will start. So once every student has had a one-on-one, we, the scheduling team, will look at what are those needs of the students within the two subgroups of special ed and multilingual students. A lot of them do overlap. And so we will begin scheduling next year's master schedule based upon those courses first. How many English classes we need, how many math classes we need, science, social studies, so on and so forth. And then, of course, giving them optimal time and effective transitions into cluster pathways, arts courses, things like that, and then building a schedule that meets the needs of all of our students, all of our populations. As you know, we have that high extension group of students as well. So we will be balancing this schedule, this strategic schedule around AP course offerings, and then our two PLTW pathways, which I had presented to you as well a few meetings ago in that coursework, as we do full implementation of both of those pathways. So we will strategically be looking at what students need to graduate, not only that, but what do they want? How do we make them career and college ready? And that's what we're gathering from those one-on-one meetings that will guide us into what we will offer for our students at Bartlett next year. And I think that if we are truly focusing on the subgroups that are below, as we talked about last time in the iReady scores, and allowing the data to guide us, We will be offering remedial courses that allow students time on learning in front of a teacher, remediating some of those gaps and really targeting the needs of students when it comes to literacy, biology, and math. And so that is our hope with what strategic scheduling will do for us at Bartlett. It's the biggest lever for us right now as we are lifting to meet the needs of every one of our students. And so those are the two big things this evening. So I'll take questions and or comments here.
Are there any questions or comments from the committee for Mr. Collins? Mr. Collins, from my perspective, it's really great to hear it. Can you hear me okay? No?
I'm deaf in the one ear, so that's why I lean in. Sorry, you're
Oh, okay. No, I
fine. You're
mean,
good.
my hearing isn't great, but also sometimes my sound isn't either. So I just want to make sure I'm projecting.
You're okay.
It's great to hear, a real holistic view of creating this schedule and really walking students through the understanding of credits and right from the beginning. So just hats off. Great job.
Thank you so much. And I wanted to put something on the agenda tonight that was lifting up a non-core area and celebrating. And I had full plans to bring you pictures and things and ideas that the kids had with empty bowls, as many of you are already aware of it, but I wanted to lift it back up. So I would like to table that fun stuff and extend that invite to each and every one of you with those pictures, with the insight that the kids were giving. We had questions that Ms. Nieves and I were going to give them today about the bowls and the process, and I wanted to bring them tonight to have them. So I will say, I know that you guys love it because I've heard some of you talk about it in meetings previously. So April 14th, 6 to 8 p.m. I hope that you will be rushing the doors as well to do that. And if you will allow me to table the invite one from the kids to come, of course, to each and every one of you on this call, but also so that you can kind of hear a little bit about why they chose the work that they did around the project and to extend that wonderful piece of the classroom.
Perfect. Yes, that sounds great. Are there any questions or comments for Mr. Collins about, any of the content of his report or otherwise? No? Well, thank you for your updates. I know that I, for one, will be at empty bowls, and my kids are very excited. They get a chance to throw a ball every year usually, so they'll be ready. The students are always amazing with them too, so.
Good.
Great. Thanks again. So moving right along, the next item on the agenda under old business is an update on the superintendent search and the process of developing finalist interview questions. So that's actually, two big things. Let me start with the update on the superintendent search. So as many of you may know, we have begun the process of seeking out a new long-term superintendent to lead Webster Public Schools. And we've come really far actually in that search process. So I'll quickly review sort of the state of the state. The position, Dr. Gogan tendered her notice of resignation for the purposes of retirement back in October. The committee, in conjunction with the Mass Association for School Committees, began working quickly to develop a list of criteria and a candidate profile. We created a brochure. We posted the position. The position closed for applicants on January 27th. At which point during the same time, really, a search committee was formed. Once the application process closed, the search committee began the process of reviewing applications. We narrowed a field of 23 applicants down to 10 semifinalists. They were interviewed in executive session, and we then narrowed the field further to a total of 4 finalists. So I'm very excited to report that those 4 finalists are among the most qualified of the very qualified applicant pool that we received, and are continuing through the interview process. Although we had a snow day today that put a bit of a wrench in the works, those visits are happening this week. So members of the school committee here in Webster are going to the home district of the applicants during the course of this week. And also during the course of this week, those 4 finalists will be visiting schools here in this district as well. And they also will be having an open forum in the afternoon, late afternoon, from 2:30 to 4:30 for anyone in the community and members of the school community as well to come in and talk with them and ask questions and that type of thing. So we look forward to continuing that process. And, moving forward, the week after next, we are planning on conducting those interviews with the 4 finalists by the school committee. That will happen in open session. And, anyone from the community that's interested in attending those meetings is welcome to. They won't have the floor. The purpose of the meeting is for the school committee to be interviewing candidates, but it's certainly an open meeting. That's an update on the process. Anything I've left out, or any comments or questions from anybody with regard to the process thus far? One additional point that I'll make that is separate from the search process, but an important part of the continuation of the leadership of the district, is that Dr. Gogan's on leave for the remainder of her time here, and Monique Perangeli was appointed interim superintendent on Friday. So she has taken on the role of interim superintendent, and we expect that we will be able to make a decision on our long-term superintendent in the coming weeks. But it's not likely that anyone outside of this district coming in, if they're selected, would be able to start before July 1st. So Monique is one of the finalists. So, we'll have to wait and see what happens there between her and the other 3 folks. But she's committed to, if necessary, leading us as an interim until permanent superintendent is selected. And that brings me to the topics and questions that we'll be asking of the finalists. So we plan to conduct these meetings during the second week of March, and we'll have 4 people to meet with. Our goal is to hold 75-minute interviews, with 60 minutes being our Q&A and allowing a 15-minute buffer for catching up if we've missed anything and allowing the candidates to ask questions of the committee. With that being said, we as a committee need to create topics that we would like to have addressed in those interviews during an open session. The interviews happen in open session anyway. For those of you wondering, why are you creating interview questions in an open session when candidates can then know what you're going to ask them? If we created them in an executive session, they would only be a surprise for the first candidate anyway, because the interviews are happening in open session. So with that knowledge, the rule is that these topics and these questions be identified in open session. Now, the goal of tonight is not to wordsmith and have a perfect slate of 15 questions. Our goal this evening is to identify the topics that are of utmost importance to this committee that we want to hear about from the candidates. And, if we have some language that we can put in for the question, fine, but then we can take that out of here and really drill it down to the specific wording. And we can even have volunteers, offer to help wordsmith it offline. And for those of you that were part of the, I'm looking at you, Mr. Collins, part of the search committee, it's similar to what we did, although we did it in an executive session. Anything you want to add about what that experience was like, or sorry to call you in here?
No, you're fine. I think the experience was very enlightening, but also rewarding to be able to see the interest of folks out there that want to help us do the best for children. So it was definitely a great experience. I believe that wordsmithing is needed, but I think brainstorming is so important in the beginning and then doing it. So I like that she mentioned that to you tonight so that you can get the idea around that as well, because I think that's the most important thing, is to throw all the things out there and let all the brains marinate on it and then wordsmith it. I think that's the best bet. It was definitely, I feel like, how we came to some really great understandings of what was important around our vision, for sure.
Yeah, thank you for your comments. I appreciate it. It was nice being able to do that process in person previously, because we had flip charts and we were able to write questions down and then put marks next to it. And I had big ideas on how we were going to do this. And now we're relegated to the screen, which really prevents us from being able to, we can still be interactive, but it's going to have a little bit of a different look and feel. Ms. Neparata, any thoughts or comments that you have? You also were part of the search committee.
No, I'm relieved that we're only coming up with topics, because I did think that we were going to have to be coming up with the questions as well. So I think it's important for members of the committee to throw out all of the ideas that you have in terms of what are the topics of the questions that we want to ask, and we'll see what sticks, and then we'll go and create questions, and they will be formulated and organized.
Agreed. The direction from MASC is to start with topics, move into questions, and if there's any polishing needed, that we'll assign that outside of the meeting. So just to clarify, but I think definitely starting with the topics. I mean, it was a long process, I think, and also it was a bigger group the last time. There was 13 of us. But yeah, I agree. All right. So any other comments or questions before we move into talking about topics? No? Okay. Here's what I'm thinking. I'm gonna open a Google Doc and I'll screen share. Would that be helpful for people to be able to see? I'm imagining not being able to see what we're doing here. So, all right. Before I go ahead and do that, I'm gonna see, I have another display. Let me see if I can just make it so that I can share my screen. And you don't have to see yourselves twice, so to speak. Let me see here. Okay, yeah, that's much better. All right. Oh, I will do it, I promise. Just give me 1 second here. Okay. All right, I'm going to put this over here. And then I'll go ahead and share my screen in a second here. Where's the IT guy when you need him, Monique? Let's see here.
Got it? You hit.
Well, fingers crossed. I'm a Teams girl myself. I'm not so much a Zoom person.
There
So
you go. You got it.
you all see this okay?
We're good.
All right, good. All right, so I'm going to open it up to the committee. And if I think that what we want to do first, and I'm open to suggestions, is to throw out topics that you would like to hear from the candidates. And no bad ideas. Let's just get them down there. If you feel like you want to hear about it, let me know and I'll type it on here. And then we can go back and whittle it down. The last thing I'll say before we get to brainstorming is we probably have room for 15 questions. We did 15 questions in the last round, and I wouldn't recommend any more. I don't know, Mr. Collins or Ms. Naparata, if you have other thoughts about that.
15 is good.
Sorry?
15 is good.
And if
15
you
is good.
if you could do 10 to 12, it might be even better if you pull them together.
Agreed. Yeah. Yep. No, agreed. I mean, if you think of it, 60 minutes of Q&A, a minute to ask the question, the candidate's left with 3 minutes to answer. You may not get the depth.
And maybe 10 is best, honestly. In reflection, reflection, it might be best.
Yep. We'll keep that in mind. We'll try to, 10 might be ideal, but if we have topics that are burning, then we'll figure it out. So with that being said, I will now be quiet and take down notes of what folks think we should have for topics here.
Through the chair,
Miss Millett?
I would like, my top two so far are curriculum development and collective bargaining.
Good. Perfect. Keep them coming.
Through the chair.
Yep.
So I'm thinking about community engagement, leadership and team building. I don't know if we lump them together, if that's separate. Special education. I'm thinking about budgeting or finance. and something around the building project.
Did I miss something, Ms. Blythe? Special education, finance, building project, leadership, team building?
No, I think that's, I've been writing them down. So nope, I think we're good. No, because I said like budget or finance. So I think that's just in one. The finance
Oh,
is
I
fine.
see. Yep.
Yeah, it's fine.
Through the chair. I
Ms.
think
Naprata?
of something to do with the superintendent's evaluation of staff.
Oh, gosh. Yep.
Through the chair, communication, like building networks of communication with stakeholders and other municipal officials potentially.
Mhm. Did I catch that? Okay, Mr. Adamopoulos? For now? Okay.
Yes.
Want to make sure people can see this too.
Through the chair, I think we also need to ask about the status of our turnaround, of being a turnaround district, and the work that it takes to make strides in academic achievement.
Through the chair,
Ms. Millett,
accountability.
can you expand on that with maybe just a couple more words for whom or?
For administration, staff, for the superintendent themselves and staff accountability.
Mm-hmm. Thanks. That's 12 topics. I'm going to let this marinate for a minute. It feels weird when you're on Zoom and, but I think we need to just have a minute with this to look at it and see what might be missing and that type of thing.
So maybe we could kind of put some of these topics in with another topic. Maybe.
Could be. Before we go there, if it's okay, I want to make sure that we've captured everything that we wanted to capture for updates. I mean, for topics. And then once we're satisfied with our topics, then for sure, if we want to combine things, I just want to make sure that we have everything out here that we need. I'm pulling up my own notes over here.
Yeah.
Through the chair.
Ms.
Yes.
Naprata?
In preparation for this task, I did reference the form that's used for superintendent evaluation. I wonder if we should include something regarding cultural proficiency. And I know we have something for special education students, but also something for L students, or in general, our subgroups and high needs population.
Mhm. Agreed. And not that everyone was in our last session, right? But we talked about things more broadly regarding subgroups. So maybe it does make sense to drill it down into some of the more specific subgroups that we want to hear about.
Through
Just a
the
thought.
chair.
Ms.
Through
Naprata,
the
did you have something
chair.
you wanted to say to, sorry, one
Oh,
second, Ms.
sorry.
Millett.
No, I agree. And after Ms. Millet goes, I have another recommendation.
Oh, okay. Ms. Millett?
Cultivating a disciplined, safe school environment.
Ms. Naparata, did you have something you wanted to add to?
Yes, a question regarding data and using data to make decisions for instruction and hiring, allocating funds.
Did I capture what you're getting at? Can you see that?
Yes. Yes, yes.
Okay.
And then my final one, I think, is, sorry, probably goes along with leadership style, but managing conflict and mentoring, guiding, and supporting underperforming staff.
Mhm. Mhm. Great. I'm looking at my list here too. I mean, this is probably about 15, not that I numbered it, I probably could have, but I think it's probably about 15 items. I'll zoom out a little bit. Do we want to start, like Ms. Blythe was talking about, bucketing things? I was gonna highlight things and number
Yeah.
them, but this is huge. I don't know if this is more helpful or not, just being able to
Mhm.
see.
It is, yeah. So through the chair, this is just a suggestion, but under item number 4, right, leadership, I mean, I think we can bucket number 5 under there, potentially number 9, 11.
You know what, should I color code these maybe?
Oh yeah, that's, yeah,
All right,
whatever.
I'll
works.
highlight them. So I'll make
And
all of these
again,
orange. You said
right.
9 and 11.
Yeah.
So through the chair, just as you're doing that, um, I actually disagree. I don't think number 9 should be under
think-
that particular question regarding leadership, team building. I more see maybe managing conflict under that. Communication with stakeholders, intermunicipal relationships, families, which of course are stakeholders, that's a really big topic that we might want to have our own group of questions for that one topic.
How do folks feel about keeping that one separate?
Yeah, sounds good.
Yeah, my only thoughts is that may fall into kind of the same thing as number 3 as a bucket item, but
Mhm.
I do agree that it's a very large topic in itself.
Mhm.
And if I may, my thought about this related to sort of what we've all, and you all don't have the benefit of knowing sort of what the conversations were previously. What I'm left wondering about really has to do with sustained holistic integration of families into the schools and integration of what's happening in the school into the family life. That's where I think, when I think of turnaround work, I think of that being one of the keystones.
Right, so if we keep number 9 and add also family relationships. I meant to topic number 9, not as its
Sorry.
own.
You mean add that into the same
Yes,
here?
yes.
So here's where I feel that having strong intermunicipal relationships is separate and maybe different from going back to when we were talking about the additional funds that we may have in our budget for next year. And I mentioned making sure that families understand what's happening, whether it's L families or non-L families, just having that deliberate connection, asking the right questions, getting to know families in a way, or allowing families to get to know what's happening in the classroom in a way where that work can continue at home or can be supported. I don't know, it feels separate for me.
Okay, I can see that. And in terms of including number 12 with number 4, I mean, I see it partly, but I also wonder, because for me, it is important that the superintendent is able to effectively hold staff accountable and evaluate appropriately.
What do you think, Ms. Naparata, about 12 and 18 being together?
I guess I'm seeing 8 and 12 together,
Mm-hmm.
and possibly 18. Well,
I see what you mean. I don't want to hijack your thought here if you have something that you wanted to say.
no, 8, 12, and 18.
All right, I'll deal with 4 in a minute. Okay, and I'll start moving things around, but I just want to highlight where we're thinking things fit with each other. And then we can start moving things around when we get there. So evaluation of staff, holding people accountable, and also holding oneself accountable, and doing that mentoring, guiding, and supporting of staff that are underperforming. I can see where, especially 8 and 18, but I can see where all 3 of them potentially could go together.
And then
Through the chair,
Ms. Millett?
can we be specific about evaluation of staff? Because the superintendent does not evaluate teachers,
Okay,
only principals do.
Right, no, I'm specifically referring to staff that the superintendent would be evaluated.
Okay,
how's that?
Mhm.
Good catch. Do we have any other obvious things that we think should go together? Because the other angle that we could take here is to start saying, you know, if we combine these 3, that'll leave us probably with like 14 questions if we combine the ones that are highlighted here, which is still too many. We could also look at either combining more, but if we're going to combine a question and have a 3-part question, we still have to reduce the total number of questions.
Right. So in terms of number 5, special education, and is there something after 18?
No, I don't think, let me double check. Nope.
Okay, because I'm not seeing where we talked about subgroups. So special education, L, students, high needs, so all of our subgroups. So if we can capture that in one topic.
Do you think, Ms. Naprata, that is separate from what we have on here already? I should create another bullet point for that. I'm fine with it. I just want to make sure that I'm clear. And we can always bucket it if it makes obvious sense later.
I think that if we create a topic for subgroups, then we would include special education, L students, high needs
High needs.
students. And then I don't know if we also want to. Okay. I'm wondering where cultural proficiency fits in, or if that is standalone. Do we talk about cultural proficiency when we talk about subgroups? Or when we talk about disciplined and safe schools?
I mean, that's sort of the age-old question when you think of whether it's DEIA or cultural proficiency and things like that. The question is always, does it stand alone or does it belong in every single thing we do? And I think that there's a case to be made that it belongs in every single thing we do and also is worthy of its own conversation. That's my own bias. So I guess what I mean by that is when you're dealing with, okay, number 14, there's cultural considerations when you think of the special education group, or when you think of kids who have high needs. There's certain things that you want to consider when you're interacting with any group of people that have the risk of being marginalized, in addition to people who speak a different language or may have a different ethnic background or skin color or something like that. So for me, it feels like it should be part and parcel of number 14, but also if the committee so desires, we could certainly ask about it, you know, as its own.
Okay. Should we eliminate numbers 5 and 15? And I know 15 also has that part about family supports, which would be the same, well, one for all of our students, but also for our students with disabilities. So we could include that in number 10 in terms of family relationships and family supports. Then at least the numbers start looking smaller.
Anyone else have any thoughts here about this? What Ms. Naprata is saying is number 15 here related to L student and family support, lumping that potentially in with number 14 here related to, you know, addressing the subgroups and the needs of those subgroups. And I think, and possibly number 10 about family relationships.
No, I think what she's saying is you can just delete 15 because L students are already in 14 and family supports would fall under number 10, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
That way we're reducing the total number of potential questions and kind of condensing them already.
Mhm. I'm not sure that I'm prepared to do that yet. And I guess only because I worry that that there's probably more work to be done with regard to supporting family. Well, we can at least put them all in the same bucket or in the same category right now, right? But we agree that numbers 9 and 10 are different.
Yes, so will they be, can you highlight them in different colors?
Yep, I'm on it.
Okay. And then I think we can add family supports to number 10.
Okay,
Okay, but 14 is also a separate color.
okay. And then this goes away, number 15.
Yes, because we've moved those topics to number 10 and number 14.
Okay, I'm gonna cut this and paste it at the bottom, just so that I'm sure this is something that I just want to make sure that we deal with. So I'm just gonna put it down there. I'm not ready to delete it yet.
Okay, and same with special education, that is now included in number 14.
I'm gonna just put these down below so that we can reference the ones that we're taking out of the master list here. So that when we come to the point where we're fleshing out questions, we remember the original intent of some of these topics because we've now combined them. Okay,
And managing conflict, I think, could go under leadership and team building, perhaps.
what number are you on? Oh, I see, number 16.
Mhm.
Could go where again?
Under number 4, leadership and team building.
It could, yeah. I can just put it over here for
Mhm.
now, or do we combine it into one? Want me to highlight them?
Yes.
So at this juncture, we're left with still a lot of items. I wonder if we should pause for a moment and go through each of these topics. We have 5 of us and vote if we want to keep that topic as one of the questions that we have. And then, similar to what we did in our last process, any questions that maybe have less than a majority, we think about tabling. We're at 17 here, unless we try to combine 8, 12, and 17. And those two, still gonna leave us with like 14.
Through the chair,
Miss Millett,
wouldn't community engagement come under communication with stakeholders and intermunicipal relationships?
I can see that going together. What do others think about that?
Yeah, I would agree.
Yes.
Yes. Mr. Adamopoulos, yes?
No, I agree with that.
Okay. I'm gonna just take this out and say engagement with stakeholders and intermunicipal relationships. Would that be acceptable?
I think engagement and communication, and again, these aren't the final questions, but just to be sure when we're formulating the questions that we cover both.
Mm-hmm.
In terms of the building project, could we also include more broadly facilities management? Or is that combined with budget and finance, the building project of itself?
I'll open it up to the committee. See if anyone else has any thoughts about it.
I mean, I think it could go with just overall facility management, right? In the finance area. Is that where we're looking? Is that what you said, Mrs. Nafarata?
Or with the building project?
I guess the question would be, does the school committee feel that it's important that somebody have had experience or an understanding of school building projects, or do we feel that that is something that doesn't need to stand alone?
Through the chair, I guess my thought process just is the building project is obviously the biggest thing in front of the town at this point on the school basis because it's such a new project, but most of the heavy lifting of getting the project already passed is kind of come and gone, even though it's this big thing in front of us. So while it's such a big topic, I just don't know what the questions we'd be asking concerning that would be. I mean, is that more communication with stakeholders to keep them on pace with how that's progressing? Is it budgetary, even though, we kind of already have that taken care of and that's going to be handled through the school building committee rather than directly with the superintendent? I mean, it's just such a big thing out there, but it's kind of now out of our hands because it's being handled in different ways.
Mm-hmm. That's a good point.
Yeah, through the chair, I would agree with Mr. Adamopoulos that we could bucket that in with the intermunicipal relationships.
Just to that one, or just okay?
Yeah, I mean,
Yes.
Maybe we take it out and we just talk about communication with the intermunicipal, departments and that type of thing. Is that what I'm hearing?
I think that was.
I would agree with taking it out just because I think that one of those questions that we'd bring underneath communications with stakeholders would probably touch on the school building, how to promote it.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And I just want to comment on Mr. Adamopoulos' comment regarding, yes, that is a big thing that is in front of us right now, and it's great all the work that has led up to this point. And I'm hoping that we're able to capture what is really important in front of us right now as we embark on choosing the next superintendent, and that's the advancement and achievement of our students. So I think that we maybe have a question that could lead to that information, whether it's the data question or the curriculum question.
I was going to say, I feel like it's a good point to touch underneath curriculum development, trying to tie that into taking advantage of the new, opportunities in the expansion.
Through the chair,
Ms. Millett?
I think we could connect 1, 9, and 14.
I agree that they're very much interrelated topics. I don't know if we could have one concise question that would touch all of that. 1, 9, and 14.
We're at 12 questions right now, or 12 topics.
Oops. Sorry.
Yeah, definitely 9 and 14, I think, need to be standalone.
We agreed that we wanted these 3 all together in one. I'm going to just put them together so that we can have our numbers straight. Is that right?
I'm sorry, Kelly, which 3?
The
Oh.
one, the number 6 here and then number 14 is now two different items.
So you want to add 6 to 14?
Is that the desire of the committee here? Yeah,
Yes, I think that would work.
Yeah.
okay. Just so that we understand better how many questions we're dealing with here. What did I do here? I got budget and finance mixed in here. And then where were we with the rest here? I'm just gonna clean up some of this dead space.
Yep, 4 and 3 can be combined.
Say that again, sorry, Ms. Naprata?
3 and 4 can be combined.
Oh, yeah. Are we satisfied with this list of 12 questions? Not questions, sorry, topics?
It's looking really good. I can understand the desire to narrow it down even by just one, because many of these questions are multifaceted. What a, I wonder, for sake of further combination, of doing maybe culturally proficiency with curriculum. I think that is something in the field of education that is talked about frequently in terms of what curriculum we are choosing.
Potentially, but I think it's going to depend on what the question becomes related to curriculum. I actually was going to ask for clarification on whether the intent is to talk about curriculum development or alignment. I don't recall who brought up curriculum, and I don't want to call anyone out. Oh, Miss Miller, okay. I don't know if you care to share where you were. Maybe you weren't headed anywhere and you just feel like curriculum development is important, but if there was a thought process, can you share that?
Sure. Curriculum development and implementation across all levels.
For alignment and outcomes and that sort of thing?
Because that would include our Ls, our special ed, across all levels. How
Oh, I
it would
see.
be implemented across all levels.
You mean like across all subgroups?
Yes.
I'm thinking grade levels, but you're thinking people, right?
Yes.
Yes. Does that still feel like it would be combinable, Ms. Naparetta?
Yes.
What is the desire of the rest of the committee? Do we park them together and see where it shakes out? if there are other thoughts or comments, now is the time.
Through the chair.
Ms. Millet?
I think member Naprata alluded to this at one point, that I think we need to be careful too, that these topics are becoming multi-topics. And the question's going to be so, the responses are going to be even longer. Because we're grouping so much information in these topics.
Mm-hmm.
I think it
Agreed.
might end up a concern that we're grouping too much together. I think we just need to look at that.
I agree. That's part of the reason I was wanting to switch gears and start thinking about, is there anything that, you know, it was brainstorming, and the idea behind brainstorming is no bad ideas, everything goes up on the list. But then often when it comes down to implementation or execution, you start weeding out some ideas that are great, but are just not, they don't make the cut. And I don't know if there's any topics here. I mean, all of these topics can be argued that they're worthy of addressing in an interview. Is there anything that doesn't bubble up to the top, or, you know, I think anybody that says now, oh, we can eliminate number whatever is going to feel, you know, pretty vulnerable to say that.
I'll say it.
Go for it. Thank you.
I'm just
There's one in
wondering if we
every
could-
crowd.
I'm just wondering if we could take out 4, because I feel like it's going to get touched indirectly through either 1, 2, or 11. With fund allocation based upon data, instruction, collective bargaining, and then, I mean, technically your budget's also going to be touched on through figuring out how to move forward your curriculum. So I don't know if it's a number that needs to be by itself, if it could technically be touched by other avenues.
I would agree. I would
Very
agree with that.
definitely, with number 11, when we talk about using the data to inform instruction, including funding allocation.
I
So
agree.
sorry, Ms. Millett, what did you say?
I agree.
So this is going to be an unpopular addition, but almost counteracting what Mr. Adamopoulos just did for us. One thing that I've been feeling like I wanted to make sure that we asked of people is, and I don't know how to word this as a topic, but not so much what are your priorities in the sense of what are you going to do in your first year, but what's the barometer of a superintendent to know whether or not you're on the right track? Like, what are the dials that you're looking at to ascertain whether or not corrective action needs to happen, or an adjustment to a strategic plan or goals and that kind of thing? There are so many pieces of information that filter up to the superintendent role, and it's really important that they be able to prioritize that information and operationalize when needed, and just put it where it belongs in other cases. So I almost, you know, I know I'm coming in late here, but I almost would like to hear from people that in some way.
I think I understand what you're saying. Can you just say what that broad topic would be again?
That's a good question.
I understand.
Priorities, I suppose, but it's not action item priorities. It's strategic priorities, or things that you need to have your finger on the pulse of.
So is that like management style?
Or turnaround status, but I think either one, whether it's leadership or tie strategic priorities with our turnaround status. And what does it take to make progress?
Okay. Yeah.
unless there were other areas when you were thinking about strategic priorities outside of student achievement.
Well, that's, I guess, my whole angle of the question is to understand where they go with it. Is it student achievement? Is it the culture of the district? I mean, I'm giving away everything I'm giving and having in my head, but it's important to me to have a beat on what this person views as important, because what they view as important is what is going to get their attention. And if what they view as important doesn't align with what the committee views as important or stakeholders, then it's not a match.
Through the chair,
Yes, Ms. Millett?
if I'm hearing you correctly, wouldn't this be asking a candidate for a mission statement?
No, I mean, no, I guess it's just really kind of understanding. I mean, maybe we'll just leave it at strategic priorities and I can try to flesh out some kind of a question if the committee is so inclined to have a question related to that on this long list of questions.
Through the chair, so you think if we relate it to turnaround and student achievement, that's too leading, that we want to hear what the candidates' strategic priorities are for themselves based on their knowledge of our district?
In any, I guess, I mean, in any job, you have certain things that you need to keep an eye on. Whether you're a teacher or you're the police chief or you're a custodian, or everyone has certain things that, you know, they have to keep an eye on, and some of them are on the front burner and some of them are on the back burner, but we're all constantly juggling things, whether you're a parent or whatever your role is. What are those things that you open your eyes in the morning and you're thinking about, and you close your eyes at night and you're worried about?
Okay, with that, I would say that strategic priorities should be its own topic. And I think we're making progress if we are removing number 4, the budget and finance topic. And can I ask about collective bargaining? What would that question entail potentially?
That was mine. I would say what experience they have had with collective bargaining, because especially the teachers, is the largest union in the town. And it affects a lot. It affects a lot of the budget. So it's what if they've had any kind of experience in collective bargaining contracts in a district. Any kind of contract.
Okay, thank you. For cultural proficiency, would people be in agreement to include that with curriculum development?
Or number 9?
I mean, I kind of like it more broadly addressed through the entire curriculum, tier 1 instruction. And there's also that part of the question that talks about the subgroups as well in number 1.
How's that?
Yes, thank you. So Okay, good. So we're down to 11 topics.
What now? I just want to go back to collective bargaining for a moment. And Ms. Millett, I agree with you that the ability to work in a collaborative fashion with the union is very important. Is this a question that we feel we want to be asking at this juncture, sort of at the finalist stage? I guess I'm asking because I'm working off of the assumption that folks are pretty qualified at this point and have this kind of experience, but maybe other committee members have different thoughts about that.
But they might not have. Because the superintendent is at the table for all of them. All collective bargaining, but if a principal might not be. So they all might not have had experience in collective bargaining, which is important because the superintendent is at the table with all of them. I think it's good to know that they've had some experience and what that experience is.
Through the chair, just based on that comment and knowing who the finalists are, I think if we can confidently say that a superintendent or even an assistant superintendent has that experience, then we may be assuming that somebody else doesn't. So if that is, let's say, a make or break decision, then is it swaying the questions in a way towards certain candidates over others?
I think it
Trying to
has been.
think if we can combine it with something. So that would not happen,
Stand alone, right?
right?
Does it go with the engagement / communication with stakeholders and intermunicipal
I was
functions?
just looking at that. I was between 4 and 5. I think that could be very well part of it. So it's not a standalone. I agree.
And a follow-up to that, because these questions are going to get confusing if we combine too many topics.
Right.
So I'm okay with combining it, but wonder if it's collective bargaining and which is exactly what you said, Ms. Millett, or is it relationships with the union? Because I view collective bargaining, right, as that, once every so often you sit down and you hash out a new contract, whereas that ongoing relationship really sets the tone for that less frequent sit down. But are you thinking more along the lines of just the negotiation part and not the relationships?
I think it could be number 5.
Okay, and then that would mean that we would just talk about relationships with stakeholders, including, municipal relationships and teachers union and all of that kind of thing. Okay, so I'm going to take this out.
I agree. It is not just bargaining a contract at all. It's a relationship. Yes.
Okay. Look at us.
Nice job, everyone.
Anything else? I think we've made a really lean list here. So I think it's time for us to move into questions. They don't have to be perfect. I think that number one is close enough to a question. How would you implement? And then it's a question, right?
Through the chair. I guess, oh, sorry. I guess I just wonder, like, to what extent we are going to be creating these questions now. And I know that there was a document shared with us with some suggestions, and I'm not sure if people had a chance to review that. It was lengthy, but they really had some fantastic questions there.
Mhm.
So I was able to review a lot of it, not all of it, and was able to pull the ones that I really liked and could, at this juncture, potentially fit them into one of these topics. So I'm just not sure if everybody is prepared to do that. Or is there an option of us to be assigned a couple of topics each and send our questions your way? Now that we have the topics.
The advice from MASC was to create questions. They don't have to be perfect. But that, we could wordsmith them afterward, but that we needed to develop questions in open session.
Through the
I'm just
chair,
as tired as the rest of you, believe me.
No, it's not that.
through the chair,
Miss Millet?
one of mine was number 8, and I do have, it is to describe your ability to cultivate a disciplined, safe school environment.
All right. What I'm gonna do is the ones that all right, maybe we don't need to. All right, strategic priorities. I'll flesh something out there. I'm gonna leave it as what are your strategic priorities? And I need to play with it.
Mhm.
So we're
Um,
Oh, sorry, go ahead, Ms. Blair.
So through the chair, I was just looking at number 6, turnaround status. I think something are along the lines of, what are the steps, right, that you would take to bring us out of that turnaround status? How are we going to measure that? Help me out if, right?
Mhm.
But I'm just thinking something like that, right? We need to get out of this, out of turnaround status. So,
Yep. So it sounds like what you're asking is, what are the concrete steps that you would take as a superintendent to move us out of turnaround status?
Mhm.
And then how are you going to measure your progress and report that out to people?
yes,
That is good. And I think we can order them after, but that could lead into the number 10. If other committee members have other thoughts or comments about this, I invite you to let me know. I probably can't talk and type at the same time, but I can listen and type, I think.
Could we say, instead of concrete steps, what their priorities would be?
I think it's 2 different questions. Ms. Blythe, it's your question, so I don't want to jump in if you have
Right.
thoughts about that. I certainly have thoughts,
think
but I
it's-
want to make space.
Yeah, I think, Ms. Millet, that it is two separate questions. And maybe just holistically, the priorities would flush out. That's my thought. But I'm not, I mean, I'm open.
That's fine.
My experience as a member of this community for many years, school committee member for the last 6, is that we've talked a lot about improving test scores. And we just have not actualized the gains that we've hoped to. And that's not a blame on anyone. It's not because anyone isn't working hard enough or wants it bad enough. But I worry that talking about things theoretically doesn't have the same level of accountability as someone in an interview saying these are the concrete steps I'll undertake to get this done. And
Mhm.
this is how I'm going to measure it.
I agree. Through the chair, I have a question for the subgroups topic.
Very quickly before we move on, is it okay if I delete this area that I just highlighted in the baby blue and I leave what remains for number 6?
I'm okay with that.
Others?
Yes.
Yeah, good. Okay. Sorry, Ms. Naparetta, what number were you on?
Number 7.
Okay.
Okay. How would you ensure that the district is providing adequate support and intervention to our subgroups who fail to meet or exceed the learning standards?
Oh God, sorry, my mouse is weird settings on my mouse here because I'm using it from a different computer and my buttons are switched. And every now and then I forget which button does what. So Ms. Naparetta, is that what you asked me to type? And then I can delete this if everyone is okay with that? It would read, how would you ensure the district is providing adequate support and intervention to our subgroups who fail to meet the learning standards?
Can we add, before support, instruction, support and intervention?
Sure. Instruction right here.
Yes.
What about, and I don't want to take away the meaning behind this question. Are there students that are not members of subgroups that are failing to meet learning standards that we don't want to leave out of this question? You know what I mean? Maybe most of the kids that are failing to meet learning standards could be identified as fitting into one of those categories, or
Yes, that is true.
are students and members of subgroups, or no?
That would work.
Others? Does it work well? I mean, are you happy with it? I guess we're getting into wordsmithing, aren't we?
Mhm.
Okay.
Yes, that works.
Okay. I'm going to try to resist the temptation to wordsmith.
Okay.
No
And-
promises.
And we can email suggestions as well.
Excuse me?
And we email some wordsmithing suggestions as well.
Yeah, definitely. That's what I mean. I mean, we don't need to make them perfect now. We just need to have questions. We can certainly reword them as long as they maintain the topic area and the flavor. So we've got 3, 4, 5 that we need to deal with. Any bites there? Anybody want to deal with one of those?
I mean, for number 4, going back to what Miss Naparata said, I think just stealing question 5 on page 12 of the document we got from Tracy would be great. Which is, how have you built lines of communication with the various district stakeholders, such as your leadership team, faculty, community leaders, and business interests and families? Kind of just touches on everything at once.
I'm not going to get all of that. If you want to give me the number, I can reference it.
It's COM 5 on page 12 of that document.
Okay,
So
thank you.
I'm not sure if this question would fall under number 3, but I was thinking something about describe the role of the superintendent in the development of district and school culture. So I may be way off there, but I just feel like that's some kind of that we have to touch on that.
I mean, that really goes to team building, leadership. And it's almost like preempting conflict. When you have strong culture, you're always going to have disagreements and, you know, the need to merge perspectives, but it sort of is a more proactive strategy. I'm okay with it. I'm curious what others think about it. If it, you know, fills what our original intention was. I don't know who put that up originally.
I put the leadership team building. I'm not
Okay.
sure who put the managing conflict. I don't recall.
Miss Blythe, can you tell me again what you said? I'll try to type
Yeah,
it.
sure. Yep. Describe the role of the superintendent in the development of district and school culture.
Development and what?
Of district and school culture.
What is the desire of the committee? Is that work? We would be taking out this area here. Some nods, some really subtle nods. I'll wait so that you all have a chance to think about it. Going once. Going twice. No comments? Okay. All right. Family relationships and support. For me, this goes to, and you know, we have in our district plan sense of belonging. For me, I think of things like empowering every single adult in every school building to be, maybe, I don't know if empowering is the word, but to be asking questions and being curious with kids and with families to make sure that how am I going to get there? There are kids and families all over Webster that have needs that we don't know. And if we only knew them, we could probably help with them. And we'll never know about them if we don't have families in our buildings on a regular basis, and we don't have really good, regular, meaningful communication going home.
I agree. It's extremely important, right, to have that that human touch with each family and just, and make every family feel comfortable. So how do we? Maybe something along the lines of how, and I'm just going to throw words here, how would you identify the needs of the students and families within a district? Trying to get to,
I think that's good. And then leading into what are the supports that the candidate feels they can develop and implement.
mhm.
I missed the first part. I was thinking over it and then it was like gone and I didn't get to type it.
How would you identify?
Identify the needs of the families and students within the district.
I did it again. It's not the superintendent that's gonna do it though, right? I mean, maybe we're all on the right track here. But it's not on, the superintendent isn't in the classroom every day. They're not on the bus. They're not in the lunchroom. You understand what I'm getting at?
Yeah, how would you?
It's
almost
creating
like
a
how to
culture.
support, but not.
It's
the
creating
tail-
almost like a
Could
like
we-
a web of adults. We have this network of adults that are in these buildings that
Could
see
we-
things and they hear things. Sorry, Miss Millett.
Could we use instead, because it's the superintendent, how would they foster a one-on-one productive family relationship that would support families and students, something like that?
That's possible.
Because they're not in direct contact, but how would they go about fostering that relationship?
I'm just typing because if I don't, I'll lose it. It's not that it's exact.
A productive and supportive relationship. And I would add between families and students.
What do we think? We have a question that is either perfect or close enough to perfect that we can move on. I think that's good. Okay, I'm going to remove this.
I just want to make sure that that question is targeting or at least talking about those students and families with high needs.
I
But
think it should be all students.
yes, yep. Okay.
I would just, I don't want to wordsmith it, but we understand what we're trying to get across to that question, but I think if you ask it as it's written, they're going to think you're talking about the relationship between the families and the students themselves. Rather than families and students with like the school staff.
Mhm. We need to put that in there somewhere.
Better?
Good point.
And then I have a half a thought here that is, I think, a tie-in to that one. Or is that the whole thought and I just didn't add a punctuation? I don't know where we're going here. Maybe
So
we leave it
what-
like that and we wordsmith it out of here?
What are this, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
What are the supports that you will develop and implement to help foster meaningful, productive, supportive, blah, blah, blah.
Or because
Just a
that was
thought.
already stated, what are the supports that you would develop and implement to provide families the tools to best support their students and engage with staff, something like that.
I like it. I almost wonder if, I mean, the teachers are the people that the kids see every day. There's a lot of people that the kids see every day, but the teachers are having the most interaction with students and theoretically with families too. But if you imagine one teacher and we're talking about classes with 20-something kids in them, how are they going to have time for this? You know, what kind of, I guess that's the question that we ask the superintendent is how do you make sure that this happens?
Okay, right. So what are the supports that you will develop and implement so that families feel they are an equal partner with school staff and informed?
Like that?
Yes.
Okay, great. Are we satisfied with that? Perfect or close enough?
Yes.
Perfect. And then I'm gonna remove the highlight on this one too, because we're done with that one also. I'm leaving this one green because I need to go back to it. Does that bring us to number 9? So data and using data to inform, it could be how would you gather and analyze data to inform instruction, allocate funds. I have instruction here twice. Is that the spirit of the question? I don't remember who.
Yeah, I have a question.
Oh, okay.
As you lead the district, how would you use student performance results to prioritize use of resources, including money, technology, facilities, and human capital?
Am I getting this right? How would you use student performance results to prioritize?
Use of resources, including money, technology, facilities, and human capital. There was another. I feel like we're, we've moved away from doing a two-part questions, but one of the, the first part of the question could be, what is the role and value of assessment instruments in the school system today?
Yes, it's two
Mhm.
questions, really. One leads into the next, but it's really two questions. I think. Do we want to say data here?
Yeah, student data. Performance data, yeah.
And then I'm going to take this out.
Yep.
Okay. Number 11. We may need to break this out too. This is a lot. My thought might be something of describe. I'm interested in the philosophy around the evaluation process and what value, if any, it should bring. High value, but you know, depending on how it's implemented, it can be more or less valuable. So maybe describing their philosophy around evaluation of direct reports and how they would undertake mentoring, guiding, and performing and supporting underperforming staff as one question. And then the next one related to accountability. Thoughts, agreement, disagreement?
Agree.
I agree.
Oh, wordsmith it later. I get caught up in that kind of thing.
There was a part of a question on the document that I liked. I liked the question, but your question is good too, Kelly. It asked, what can you do to try to make superior staff out of average performers?
Huh. I like that. That would negate this part here. So I think I like either, and I'm curious what others think. We either talk about dealing with underperforming staff or how you take average staff and make them superior.
My opinion is by using average and superior, you're labeling more than just saying underperforming staff.
Do you mind repeating that, Miss Millett? I didn't catch the
I
beginning.
think using those two terms, average and superior, are labels. You're labeling somebody.
Well,
You
we're
can be
labeling performance in this case.
Underperforming is a little different because you can be underperforming in many different ways. But then you'd have to say what is average and what is superior.
It sounds like what you're saying is using the terminology of average or superior is vague. And underperforming directly relates to a performance evaluation and is more specific.
Yeah.
Okay. That's valid. we could say something like keeping the spirit of the question as it is, and then also inspiring others to perform at an even higher level or something like that. That discretionary effort is what that question's getting at, I think. So we don't need to wordsmith it now, but I think we understand the intent of that question. And finally, we have accountability. So, Ms. Millett, I think you were the one that brought this topic forth. For me, I read this as a two-way thing related to giving and receiving growth-oriented feedback. Is that what you're getting at?
Yes.
So do
So
we
if you
want to
take-
ask? Sorry.
If you take into effect which you included here with mentoring and so forth, there has to be some kind of accountability.
Mhm.
So if the superintendent is going to guide and mentor, that you're going to be accountable. And you're accountable for those things.
Mhm. And also, administration and staff are accountable for their own outcomes, whatever those might be.
Right.
So is the question related to, and I don't want to change the spirit of your question, is the question related to how their style when it comes to providing growth-oriented feedback, and then a follow-up being how they want to hear growth-oriented feedback? Or is that not?
There is a question in the document that might be related with some possible wordsmithing. The question is, how would you expect to be evaluated as the superintendent? On what measurements would you expect to be, they say graded, I would say evaluated after 1 year or at 2 years or at 3 years? When would be a fair point to evaluate your performance as superintendent? That's kind of mute because we will evaluate every year.
Yeah, but the beginning part of that's quite good.
Yeah, it's like, so what is their perspective on how they should be evaluated? And what are the points that they should be evaluated on and judged on?
I'm hesitating because, Desi says their goals is how they get evaluated.
Right.
But they come up with their goals.
Not all.
So if they're writing their goals, if the superintendent is coming in, they'll be writing goals to be evaluated on. Yes, they're going to align to the standards that are set out in the rubric, but what would their goals be? Because that is ultimately how they will be evaluated.
I'm not seeing accountability as evaluation. I guess that is my issue.
Yeah, I can see where your point that we kind of moved away from that a little bit. So
It's-
is it, sorry.
if the superintendent gives a directive for something to be done
Okay,
and it's not done, there's an accountability there.
okay, all right, yeah, so I think I just misperceived that. But I understand and I agree. It's about the follow through on the initiatives.
Yes.
So I'm just typing here. We don't have to, you know. It's almost the question of who are you accountable to? Who and how do you hold yourself or others accountable for outcomes?
Yes.
Yes.
Oh God, wrong button. Sorry. How you hold yourself and others.
Yeah.
Is that it? This
Mhm.
question, is that the spirit of what we're looking for? And do we feel like that we want to learn that? Okay. One other thing that I think we've talked about that I'm not seeing on here, and I don't want to regret this later, is turnover at the administrator level. We've got a lot of turnover. Do we want to dig into that a little bit and we talk about evaluation, we talk about culture. Are we going to naturally get at that, or do we just have a standalone question that asks how do you select and retain the right people in administrator functions here?
Would that come under 11? As kind of a part 2?
It could, I would argue that it would probably be a different question because 11's already pretty long, but I think it definitely is in the same vein.
So it could be a follow-up question.
I think it's important to call out. It's a big part of our district alignment.
Mhm.
Okay,
I just don't know how to word it.
maybe for now, I'll just put in
It's important.
a placeholder that says, how would you address turnover at the administrator level? And then we can flesh it into something a little bit more
Mhm.
polished.
Agree.
Right. So hiring and retention of administrators.
Yeah, I worry because sometimes when we ask about hiring and retention, I think that hiring takes the cake and people forget about the retention part, the match and the keeping,
Mhm.
you know?
Okay, so, right, so the retention or whatever you said initially was good. Sorry.
No, that's okay. I can't remember. I'm just gonna say for now, how would you address the turnover at building administrator level?
Yes.
It needs work, but at least we know. Is it okay with all of you that we add this in? I know we brainstormed at the beginning and I'm coming in late with this, but
I think it's important.
okay. That's 13, lucky number 13.
Mm-hmm.
Do you all want to have a moment to read this and ensure that it captures what you want to capture, says what you want to say? I want to look back at my notes here. Any comments or questions from the committee here?
Still reading. Sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry. I don't mean to rush anyone.
I think we did a great job.
I have two things on my mind that I want to ask you all about when you've had a chance to digest what we have up here. Two things that I think I've heard talked about, or I've thought about myself that are not on here yet. Why Webster? Any yays or nays about why Webster? Full disclosure, sorry, Mr. Adamopoulos, go ahead.
No, I was gonna say, I think that's just a good like icebreaking question to kind of just get the flow of communication going between, you kind of get that unease out of the room right away.
Agreed.
And I do think it
Yeah.
can be tied if you're looking to potentially tie it with question 2. What are your strategic priorities based on their desire to be the next superintendent?
Could be. I had some other thoughts or plans for that one. But the other thing I was thinking of that could potentially tie in and make it a twofer is what do you believe Webster needs in its next superintendent, and why what do you have that would, what characteristics do you have that would be a good fit or something like that? Either why Webster and why do you believe yourself to be the right match or something like that? Is that what you're getting at?
No, so I can see where it would be separate questions.
Kathy's still here.
I think we just lost her.
There we
I
lost
think we
it.
did lose her. Well, I mean, we can continue this conversation while Ms. Navarrete rejoins. It sounds like there's some initial buy-in for the idea of having kind of an icebreaker question off the top of why Webster or something, but a matter of kind of wordsmithing what that would look like. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. And we need a closer. Just, something that we can. I'll add a closer in there. And usually it's just an opportunity for the candidate to say something, anything that we missed or something like that.
Mhm.
Let's see if Kathy's back.
I'm back. Sorry about
Oh, you're
that.
back. We agreed, Kathy, but want to know what you think about, I just put a placeholder in of why Webster, but that we would have sort of a twofer there about why are you interested in, I mean, I guess the standard is why do you believe yourself to be a good fit, which we could, go with
Mhm.
something like that.
Sure.
And then I recommended a closer. Anything we missed or anything you want to add or something like that at the end. That brings us right back up to 15. Sorry, everyone.
Yeah.
Is that good?
Mhm.
Right. I'm not clear on whether or not we need a vote to approve these These are not the final questions. These are drafts of the question. Lori, any thoughts on whether or not we should have a roll call vote to approve the draft of the interview questions?
I didn't get that impression from the way that Tracy Novak was saying your agenda item, because it would have to be a voting item, and it wasn't listed as such.
Okay. All right, so no motion. I'm gonna stop screen sharing. We're good with this, everyone?
Yes.
Yes.
Following this meeting, I will send this in an email to each of you separately so that you can look at it. Please don't send any thoughts or comments to the whole group, obviously, because we need to be deliberating in open session. But I will send the questions that we've arrived at to each of you to review. And Tracy and I will work on wordsmithing them. But if you want to wordsmith it, have at it and just send us what you recommend. Collaborative effort here. Excuse me. Are we good with that? Okay, great. The next item on the agenda under new business is the approval of the school year calendar 2023 to 2024.
Chair Siddiqui, do you
Yes.
mind skipping over to B and E? Mr. Janess has been so patient here tonight.
Oh.
I skipped over him earlier, but you guys were in the heat of the discussion, so I didn't want to interrupt, but
I'm sorry, Mr. Janess. I hope you popped some popcorn before you joined.
No, it's totally fine.
So, okay,
then.
sorry about that. You couldn't even wave the white flag. You had your camera off. So we'll move right into new business here. We'll go to item B, which is the approval of the overnight field trip, Bartlett High School DECA students to the State Career Conference. Mr. Janess?
Yeah, so this year we have 3 students that will be attending. We have 1 female student, Victoria Spitz, and 2 other male students. We've already set it up. So our 1 female students with another female chaperone from another district. We are all still in the same hotel. So it's all by the DECA guidelines that they put forward. So we do have a female advisor that will be on the same floor with an adjoining room with her students, as well as the 2 male students that I have. I will be on the same floor, sharing a room with another advisor as well. So it's Thursday. It's Thursday, Friday into Saturday of next week in Boston.
How exciting.
Yes. So yeah, they already made it through. Like I said, they made it through a lot of other competitions at this point. So it is a big step to make it this far already. And even in districts, 2 of our students as a team made it. They were 3rd place overall in our district, which is really good. And one of them had a really high test score. So we'll see how they do in states, but hopefully they can, see what they have. So it'll be good.
Amazing.
Right.
That's great. Are there any questions from the committee for Mr. Janess? No. Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to approve this overnight field trip of the Bartlett High School DECA students to the State Career Conference.
So
So
moved.
moved. Second.
There's a motion and a second. Lori, would you please poll the committee?
Member Naprata,
Yes.
Member Millet,
Yes,
Member Blythe,
Yes.
Member Adamopoulos,
Yes.
Chair Siddiqui.
Yes, motion passes. Thank you, Mr. Janess, for taking our students on this amazing experience, and congratulations to them for moving forward like this. This is great.
Absolutely. Thank you very much.
Yeah, great. Go Bartlett. The next item on the agenda, let's see here, did you want me to go to item C, Mrs. Perangeli?
I was thinking maybe you could do E, the approval of out of state, and then we can cut Mr. Collins loose if he would like to go spend some time. with his
Okay.
daughter.
Letter E, the approval of the out-of-state field trip class of 2023 to High Meadows in Granbury, Connecticut.
Yes.
Mr. Collins? Yeah.
Yes, so that has been planned by the class of 2023, as I'm learning that every year they do this wonderful class trip. I entrust that the graduation committee in place and the graduation chair have went through all of the protocols that I could read about. I've read about a ton of different trips and options. So I am very pleased with all the details that they have submitted, as they have historically done. And this will be well attended. And then, of course, safe, and of course, attended by chaperones and all of our staff. So I'm really looking forward for them to have this experience, as all of our classes at Bartlett have gotten to do.
Great. Any questions or comments from the committee for Mr. Collins? No? Well, hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to approve the out-of-state field trip for the class of 2023 to go to High Meadows and Granby, Connecticut.
So moved.
Second,
There's a motion and 2 enthusiastic seconds. Lori, would you please pull the committee?
Member Millet,
Yes.
member Adamopoulos,
Yes.
member Naprata,
yes.
member Blythe,
Yes.
Chair Siddiqui.
Yes, motion passes. Thank you, Mr. Collins, and to the whole team that puts this trip together every year. I know the students really look forward to it.
Yes, I will share that approval. Thank you so much, guys.
Great, thank you. Have a wonderful night. Okay, let's see here. Now we're going to move back to item A under new business, which is the approval of the school calendar for the school year 2023 to 2024.
In your packet, you have a copy of the calendar. I'll go over a quick summary of some of the dates. New teacher orientation is scheduled for August 22nd and 23rd. The district opening and PD day is August 28th to 30th. The first day for grades 1 through 12 would be August 31st. Pre-K and K starting on September 6th. We have our half days built in for our PD in October, December, February, March, April, and May. Parent-teacher conferences are half day on November 15th and an evening on November 16th. We have full days of PD for staff in January, March. Bartlett High School graduation is set for June 7th, which would put our last day as June 13th, which would be a half a day. The teacher union did review this also and are in agreement.
That's a lot of information, Mrs. Perangeli.
I talked fast.
No, but it sounds good. Any questions or comments from the committee about this school calendar? No. I'm just looking one more time because sometimes we realize we have school committee meetings like at the most inopportune time, but it looks like we don't have one in December around the Christmas holiday. So, okay. Well, if there's no questions or comments from the committee, I'll entertain a motion to approve this calendar as presented.
So moved.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Lori, would you please poll the committee?
Member Millet,
Yes.
member Adamopoulos,
Yes.
member Naprata,
Yes.
member Blythe,
Yes.
Chair Siddiqui.
Yes, motion passes. Thank you. The next item on the agenda is the acceptance of a donation to Webster Middle School. It's a trombone from former student Eric Cousins. So it sounds like he's a former student of ours and is looking to make a very generous donation to the middle school. Are there any questions or comments from the committee? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to approve this donation.
So moved.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Lori, would you please poll the committee?
Member Millet,
Yes.
member Adamopoulos,
Yes.
member Naprata,
Yes.
member Blythe,
Yes.
Chair Siddiqui.
Yes, motion passes. Excellent. Well, thank you, Mr. Cousins, for your generous donation. You know, we've been saying the phrase a long time in Webster, kindness matters, and it really does. So just on behalf of the committee, want to extend our appreciation to you for your donation. The next item on the agenda is another donation. It's an acceptance of donation from Table Talk Pies of cases of pies that are going to go to Bartlett High School and Webster Middle School in honor of Pie Day 3/14. That's a donation that's been happening over the last many years. Much appreciated and kind of a fun way to celebrate March 14th. Any questions or comments from the committee about that? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
second,
There's a motion and a second. Lori, would you please poll the committee?
Member Millet,
yes,
Member Adamopoulos,
Yes.
Member Naprata,
Yes.
Member Blythe,
Yes.
Chair Siddiqui.
Yes. Motion passes. And thank you once again to Table Talk Pies for your generous donation. And I think, so we do have a transfer request. So under the business item review, transfer, signing of warrants, bills, payroll, and vouchers, obviously, we're going to need to come in to sign. Mrs. Pringely, who do you need? Or maybe just reach out to us.
Yes, I need Miss Millet to come in and sign the regular warrant, and Miss Blythe, I have a building warrant that's been sitting there for a little bit that I need you to come in and sign if you're available.
Well,
Excellent.
Thank you.
Okay. And there's a transfer request in the amount of $4,836.82 from the Webster Middle School Student Activity Savings Account to the checking account. Ms. Pringely, do you have any, maybe it's in the packet and I just need to look details on what that is for? I'm getting there, sorry. Here it is.
I closed my browser.
Nope, that's okay. Oh, it looks just, it shows the activities that are happening and stuff like that, and probably purchases for the school store and band and chorus. Okay, yep. Any questions or comments from the committee? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to approve that transfer request as presented.
so moved.
second,
There's a motion and a second. Lori, would you please poll the committee?
Member Millet,
yes,
Member Adamopoulos,
Yes.
Member Naprata,
Yes.
Member Blythe,
Yes.
Chair Siddiqui.
Yes, motion passes. Now, the next item on the agenda is to move into executive session according to Mass General Law 30A, Section 219A, to discuss strategy and preparation for negotiations with non-union personnel or to conduct collective bargaining sessions or contract negotiations with non-union personnel, and we won't be reconvening an open session. So I'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Lori, would you please poll the committee?
Member Millet,
yes,
Member Adamopoulos,
Yes.
Member Naprata,
Yes.
Member Blythe,
Yes.
Chair Siddiqui.
Yes. Motion passes. We will be moving into executive session. I would ask that anyone who's not essential, so any non-school committee members, to please leave. We will miss you while you're gone, but we'll see you soon. And we're going to stop recording.
You're assigned.